Oh,
Gee, Apple in the house.
Hey, guys.
thanks for stopping by, Gare.
Hey,
Gare.
I'm so sorry. I thought I had clicked into my Zumba class. I've got to get my sweat on. Otherwise, I just don't feel like myself. Good to see you guys. Have a good show.
You too,
Thanks, Gare.
See you, Gare.
See you.
Still on, Gare.
Talk amongst yourselves. See you, boys.
All right, see you.
I'll believe it. I believe it when I see it, when you actually leave.
Me too at this point. See you guys.
Can this be the show?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the living room edition of Baseball Night in New York. It's brought to you by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Doug Williams alongside Anthony Recker, Stephen Gelbs, as it says on his Zoom account. And Todd Zeile joins us once again. We're going to get into the specifics of where exactly Todd has been. If you watched the Jason Giambi show, you know that he was originally supposed to be part of that. Luckily, we're able to be joined by Todd today in front of, I believe, the Las Vegas ballpark that the 51s used to play in. Is that correct, Todd?
Absolutely. Although I was just learning from Rec that this ballpark is newly erected, and he played in the old ballpark here in Vegas before the Mets then moved back to Syracuse. So quite a new, amazing ballpark, and as you can see, empty.
There you go. Okay, time for reinventing the wheel. I can't take credit for this idea, and this is a talking point. Bob Costas was on cable news yesterday talking about what the baseball season may look like. His idea basically was that all of these rule changes that we just spent an off season talking about, things like a pitch clock permanently, robot umpires, maybe ending the games in the seventh inning, all of these ways to mix things up, all of these ideas, some of which are being used in the Atlantic League. Why not, if you're Major League Baseball and you're going to have a weird season, a weird shortened season, use all of them for 1 year, see what sticks, and then you move forward in 2021 with a totally clean slate. Steve, I want to begin with you. What do you think of the idea of just throwing it all in there, seeing what happens?
I like the idea of throwing a lot of it in there. I don't like the idea of throwing all of it in there. I think something like robot umps is still a little ways away from being totally ready to go based on people you speak with. So I don't think you want to make this season a total sham. I don't think you want it to be so aggressively different and with technology that may not be ready that all results just get tossed out the window and people don't take it fully seriously. I do think things that are ready to go, though, that are interesting, you could institute. I like the idea. We talked about this last week, I think. I like the idea of an extra inning starting a runner at second base. I like the idea of, maybe some 7-inning games just to see what that looks like, especially if you're talking about so many doubleheaders. So there are a few things that I would throw in there, but to throw all of it against the wall, especially if it's not fully ready and fully hashed out yet, I wouldn't go to that extreme.
Yeah, I couldn't be more on board with you, Steve. I mean, I want to see some of these things happen, but I certainly don't want to see some of the others. The mercy rule, I get it, and maybe that'd be great, but let's just make them all 7-inning games. That'd be fine with me. Extra innings, maybe the runner on second, maybe even the home run derby. I'd be okay with that too. I think that'd be fun. The robot umps, I would like to see it if, at some point, but I don't know that, like you said, the technology, I don't know if it's there yet for it to be 100% accurate. I wouldn't mind them trying it. I just don't think the regular season is the time to do it.
Well, you know what? I hated this idea when I first heard it, and then I've had a little bit of time to think about it, and this is essentially going to be a lost season at some level. So I don't really mind the idea, and I think to both of your point, I agree with you. I think some is better than all. Ironically, I wouldn't mind seeing if the robot umps work. They're talking about having the umps 6 feet away from the catchers anyway in this kind of weird environment. So let's test them out and see if the strike zone is consistent. I like the idea of the extra innings being shut down, especially in this era of, one swing to win an extra inning ball game instead of producing a run. So why not have a home run derby? Or why not start with somebody on second base? As a traditional baseball guy, traditionalist, as far as a fan goes, I've been really resistant to some of these things, but they are looking to try to bring fans into the ball game. These are things that could potentially shorten some of the length of it, make it a little more interesting later in the game. So I think it's a good experimental time right now to be able to throw some of these things out there.
Some of the points you guys are making an interesting point in and of itself, that a lot of these rules that may be implemented at some point, may not be, the things we're talking about actually would work in what Major League Baseball wants in the 2020 season, right? So you mentioned shortening games with the 7-inning games. That helps because you're going to be playing a lot of doubleheaders, not going to be a lot of days off for these teams in 2020 if there is a season. And also the umpire thing that Todd just mentioned. You take umpires off the field, that's 4 people that you're keeping safe and keeping off the field and away from the players. And all of these things are interesting normally in normal times, but maybe Major League Baseball looks at them a little bit more seriously in a potentially shortened 2020 season due to the quarantine and due to the pandemic. Let's talk about a guy, Yadier Molina. He's a free agent after 2020 with the St. Louis Cardinals. And I know that name comes with some pain if you're a Met fan at home. It also, though, like we were talking about with guys like Chipper Jones, guys like Chase Utley sometimes as well, comes with a little bit of respect at just how great the player is. And should, Anthony, catcher to catcher, I'll go to you here, should the Mets look into bringing this guy in if he does elect for free agency after 2020?
I don't really see a scenario where it makes sense. And it's simply just because of the fact that Yadi is going to be 38, turning 39 next year. He has an unbelievable amount of innings behind him. He has so much experience. And as a veteran presence in the locker room, and maybe someone who could, just bring that and potentially be an extra coach, maybe. I mean, he could do, a great job, just talking to some of the starting pitchers, even the relievers, even, if the Mets have another catcher, a young catcher coming up who's ready to go, but they don't right now, that might make sense to have him backing him up, or helping up, but he's not going to want to do that. And I don't know what kind of money he's going to command. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. It's not a fit. But again, he's one of the greatest catchers ever defensively, and offensively, he's put together some great seasons, just not recently. Recently, the offense has definitely come down. It's below average. And then defensively, he's actually just about an average catcher nowadays.
Yeah, Recker, I mean, he definitely is trending downwards, as you would expect at this point in his career. I believe he was an all-star 2017 and 2018, though, not in 2019. I don't know. Listen, I don't think it's very realistic, but would I be interested in it if I were the Mets? If Yadier Molina maybe would say split time with another catcher, 1,000%. And more so than anything else, just because of the conversations that you have when you're in St. Louis talking to his Cardinals teammates. He is like a manager on the field. And I think it would be something with, again, still a relatively young Mets team to have around the organization. I don't think it would be a bad thing at all. They've got a huge catching prospect coming up that's still a ways away in Francisco Alvarez. It wouldn't be bad even during a couple of spring trainings to have Yadier Molina around that guy. So, I don't know. I think it's unrealistic, but would it be something that I would be interested in, especially if Molina was willing to take a little bit of a cut in playing time? Absolutely, I would be interested in that.
Oh, I think both of you guys made great points. I think initially my thought was this guy, if you can have this guy in a Mets uniform, it can only help the Mets. So if he elects to be a free agent, is it worth for the Mets to be able to try to go after him? Yes. I think yes. I don't know that it's realistic to get him, and I don't know that it's realistic that he's going to want to take a job where he's not going to be the guy. But he's so impressive behind the plate. He takes command of the field. He's still, even though his offense is waned, you got to look at where his offense is good, and that's in clutch situations. Big RBI guy, and I just think he's one of the best defensive catchers that this game has seen. So I don't think he could ever add anything but value to the Mets, but I just don't think it's a realistic, goal.
Okay, so if you're watching this on the web, you got to tune in to SNY at 7 o'clock tonight to see the rest of the show live. And the rest of the show is going to include some pretty cool things on television. Todd Zeile is going to give us an update on where he's been. We're going to see some photos. You're going to want to see those. And the lineup card is coming up, which is always a crowd pleaser, especially on a Friday night. We'll be back just after a break.